And I said, one issue, in quotes, you're talking about the extermination of an entire people, hundreds of thousands of dead, many of whom children, as if it's just another issue like tax reform. Step back, man. This is genocide. He used the word keldrol, which is like, oy vey kind of thing about like me saying like, oh, genocide is a bad red line. And like as if it's like, I'm the one who's an asshole for like, it's like, oh, get over it, basically. It's just one genocide, get over it. Like, you just got to swallow it for Harris. And I'm just like, dude, this fucking blue anon like attitude is like what has lost you the election every goddamn time. And it's why Democrats are such fucking losers, is because of this blue anon attitude of like, you do not fucking have any self-crit, you do not have any kind of understanding of material conditions, you just all of these things that are like very like simple Marxist principles.
They were highly privileged.
I don't know.
As a person that was born during a fucking genocide, that's gonna be my number one fucking issue. You know why? Because like my entire life is I'm here because of that. Half of my family is gone or migrated somewhere because of that. It is a big fucking issue.
Yeah, and this person is a wealthy straight white man who lives in like or suburbs or whatever.
Pure poverty. Yeah. They have never felt pure jurisdiction to the point where people are literally chasing after them, wanting to murder their entire fucking population. They don't understand what it means to be in a situation where like your life is at actual stake. You know what's at stake? Their fucking wallet.
And like I was gonna tell this liberal in this place. He lives in the East Coast, but it's a pretty.
Pointing to me. I'm like,
no, I was the conversation earlier. The liberal that's in my DMs. I was gonna tell him like, you if you feel so fucking strongly about your trans neighbors and your people of color neighbors, go buy an AR-15 and join the John Brown Gun Club and go fucking escort people to and from Planned Parenthood if you're so worried about it. Put your money where your mouth is and do something about it.
Exactly.
So like, if you live in Arizona and you're a liberal in Arizona and you're worried about your brown neighbors, go buy a few AR-15s. Buy your neighbors some AR-15s and go join a couple gun clubs. There are the Socialist Rifle Association, the John Brown Gun Club. There's a bunch of I forget the name of them, but there are some Hispanic themed, led gun clubs in the South and in the Southwest, and like they run security for BLM protests. They run security for Free Palestine protests. They run security for people going to and from Planned Parenthood, because in Arizona there's protesters out front of Planned Parenthood throwing eggs at them and shit. And if you're a lot less likely to get hit by an egg as you walk into a Planned Parenthood if a dude in a tack vest and carrying an AR-15 is escorting you. So like, fucking step up or shut the fuck up. Like, if you actually have a problem with it, then do something about it. And I'm just tired of that liberal thing of like whining about something and then from your keyboard at home while you work from home making $200,000 a year. If you actually have a problem with it, go buy some guns and defend your neighbors. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Before we get to the video, please like, comment, subscribe, share it to that uncle who's a communist. And if he isn't, he will be.
Don't forget to follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/Revolutionary Rhetoric. And Revolutionary Rhetoric is an affiliate of the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network.
All right, let's get to the video.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 51.
51.
Not including our live election coverage we streamed on Tuesday. Did you miss us? It's been so long. It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, besides the live coverage.
Besides the live, it's been 3 weeks. It's been 3 whole weeks since we recorded an episode.
Welcome back to Trump Mania.
Trump Mania 2024.
We are in another 4 years. Get ready for this wild fascist ride if we are not into fascism already.
Do you know the only other presidents who ever win a non-consecutive term?
Hold up.
So there's a pop quiz, history quiz. This has happened once before, where a U.S. president won an election, lost an election, then won the following election for president.
John Quincy.
No, it was way later than that. Grover Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
I want to say like 1890s, and then or 80s, and then again in like late 1890s, something like that.
Because I know McKinley was 1892.
I think he was in between.
And he was 4 years. I think he was 8 years.
I don't remember. No, the president who Grover Cleveland was in between, or was sandwiching, I think only served for 4 years. Anyway, Trump won on Tuesday. If you couldn't tell,
oh my god,
we were surprised. That was kind of a shock because we.
I wouldn't say surprised.
Shock is not the right word. You're right. Shock is not the right word. Surprise is not the right word. But we had both predicted incorrectly that Harris would take it by a slim margin. That was both of our pre-election predictions, was that Harris would take it by just a slim margin. Alas, we were wrong.
Yeah, I thought
it wasn't slim at all. It was a fucking blowout, actually.
I thought, well, it was a blowout, but it was also quite slim because the blowout really came down to a few 50, 60,000, 100,000 votes in a couple of states.
Yeah,
but
still, that happened over and over and over again.
See, I thought that Harris was going to win by just barely in a few states.
Yeah. No.
But really, Trump won those states.
Yeah,
I knew Michigan was going to go to Trump. That was my, that's what I was guessing.
Yeah, when we were doing the coverage, I think when we left, Harris still held a slim lead in Wisconsin and Michigan, and I'm also pretty sure. Oh no, she didn't hold a lead in Pennsylvania. That quote unquote blue wall of like the Rust, or I don't know if it's considered the Rust Belt, but like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Harris led three of those, and then. It just fell apart. She lost every single swing state: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. All went to Trump, giving Trump a total electoral win of 312 to 226.
We will win. We will win amazingly.
Yeah, like
bigly.
It's one of those things where bigly. Yeah, it's one of those things where like I'm not sad that Harris lost, but I am sad that Trump won. And you ask yourself, how can both things be true? And I don't know, fuck you, they can. It's not that hard.
Oh, I know. I'm in the same position. Listen, we all know that Harris probably would have been a less destructive choice than Trump. But at the same time, it's like, I think it's time Democrats really learn their lesson that this meandering towards the center, this, destructive thought process of fuck the progressives, fuck the leftists.
Yeah, aligning with Dick Cheney, aligning with Liz Cheney, aligning with
Liz
Bush.
Cheney fucking parading themselves with you. You're like, dude, this guy her father was a literal convicted war criminal, basically.
Yeah, well, he wasn't convicted, but he
was.
But
in the minds of Americans and the rest of the world, he was convicted.
Sure, I'll give you that one.
Legally, he was not convicted, but he was basically responsible for 1 million Iraqi deaths.
Yeah, 1.5 million Iraqi deaths or something crazy. Yeah. So it was a pretty huge electoral blowout. But as Kanan said, each swing state was kind of like close-ish, right? So like let's say looking at Wisconsin as an example. Yeah, it was 1 point. It was 30,000 votes in Wisconsin, right? That was the difference. Michigan, it was 2.8 million to 2.72 million, so 80,000 votes in Michigan. We're talking less than 100K, less than 50K in most of the swing states. I think Pennsylvania was maybe a little.
If Kamala Harris won, she wouldn't have won the popular vote. Even if she won those swing states, the 3 or 4 swing states, she would have won by like 200,000 more votes than she has now, and that's 4 million.
100%. Yeah. So like
Trump
got less votes than he did in 2020 by like I think just a couple million less votes, right?
Correct.
Harris got like 14 million less votes than Biden in 2020. So like yes, Trump was less popular now than he was then.
Correct.
Fair. Harris was exponentially less popular now than Biden was then, and that's kind of saying something.
Harris was always a shitty fucking choice.
Yeah, it's always a shitty choice. But that's like where a lot of like leftists and progressives are pissed because like Biden hid his health problems, or the Democratic Party hid his health problems until it was too late, until they couldn't hold a primary. They didn't allow any kind of challenge to the reign of the Biden administration. The heir, Kamala Harris, just like snuck in. Nobody voted for her in any kind of primary. She was not chosen as like a Democratic representative. She wasn't chosen democratically. She was just like handpicked to be the nominee, whether you liked it or not. It was an obvious choice. We learned in 2016 this is a terrible way to run a campaign against Donald Trump, and they just said, hold my beer, we're going to do it again. And they did it again, and they lost. And so now they fucked around, and now they found out. Like,
they basically just ran another, quintessential Hillary-esque style
with the
campaign.
same bland white man running mate. What was his name? Clinton, Kane, Tim Kaine.
Tim Kaine.
Yeah,
Tim
like
Kaine.
a generic white man from the Midwest or whatever. I think Tim Kaine was from like Pennsylvania or something. I forget where Tim Kaine was from.
He was from
New Jersey, somewhere. I don't know.
Carolina. I think he was from.
Oh, really? Was he South?
So something. I wouldn't say South. I would say like something more southern.
I'll look it up. But regardless, it's like they learned nothing from their lessons, and they're going to learn nothing from this lesson too. They're already kind of blaming third-party voters. They're blaming Muslims, and we're going to talk about the liberal response to this, which has just been fucking awful. If you couldn't have guessed. Virginia. You're correct. He's Virginia. Yeah.
He's like southerny, but not really southern.
Well, yeah, kind of like that.
I was off by
East
one
Coast.
state.
Yeah, you're one geographical state down. Yeah. So the liberal response to this has been actually quite disgusting. There's been quite a bit of like racist like backlash and out lashing of like I've seen tweets of like, you know, I'm gonna find every MAGA person I know who has like illegal immigrant family members and report them.
Yeah,
let's see how they like it. And then there's been a lot of things about like Arab and Muslim people in Michigan of like boycott Arab stores. Like this is from liberals, boycott Muslim stores, like the the boycott Muslim shops, boycott Arab shops, like do to them what they did to us type of attitude. And it's like people are like being incredibly disgusting.
Do to them what they did to us.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Your entire fucking establishment organization that is literally guiding the White House right now is literally funding a genocide. I don't know what the fuck you want to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck did you expect when you have literal bombs that are being dropped by Israel on innocent people in multiple countries now, not just Gaza, multiple countries that is funded by us, and then suddenly due to us what we were doing to you. Dude, you've been like fucking leftists over. You've been fucking the
and
people
ignoring them. They told you like I had a conversation with liberal like on Instagram. I'll show you the DMs. It was like it went on for a while. And I told this guy like I would have voted for Harris if she had just done one thing, which is like actually show some kind of movement toward a ceasefire or some kind of like recognition of like the value of a Palestinian life and like some kind of admonishment of Israel's war crimes. Correct. If she had done kind of anything that showed any, even like it would need to be like one step from symbolic or one step more than performative, like some kind of actual action, like you know, her and Biden getting together to like sign an executive order like banning arms sales to Israel until like so much food is gone. Anything, literally anything. The bar was pretty low for me. If she had done anything about Israel, Palestine, or for the Palestinian people, I could have been convinced to vote for her. Maybe. And she just refused. And I know that there's a lot of people that needed less than I needed. Even like that probably would have supported her, even if it was just a symbolic gesture or a performative or just a promise. But she just shut her mouth, dude. And or she leaned in the other way. She would go to places like Michigan, go to places with these like 90+% Muslim and Arab communities, and like talk about Israel's right to defend itself. And it's like it's I guess Clinton said something about like
correct. They said what was the quote? In fucking Michigan.
Yeah, they sent Clinton to campaign in Michigan, but he said something at a rally about like that was very like pro-Zionist. I think he even said like Zionists like Zionists have a right or something. I forget the actual quote, but it was something fucking off, completely out of pocket and like heinous to say to anyone really, but also in a community of like 90% Arab and Muslim. So it's like. And what the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Parading around Liz Cheney, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, taking like hardcore like war criminals.
20 years ago, these people were killing Muslims as well, like killing Arabs as well.
Yeah, the daughter of the man who orchestrated the invasion and deaths of like millions of Iraqis or hundreds of thousands of Iraqis, and then send that guy to be like your spokesperson to these communities. Like, how did you think that was going to play out? So we have data from like Dearborn, Michigan, where it's a heavily Arab and Muslim populations in these the Muslim voters in Michigan, and this is the district too where Rashida Tlaib won. So like Rashida Tlaib won her seat. So like that'll be important later because I want to say that Biden won this district in this county in Dearborn, Michigan by 2-1 margin against Trump last election. This time around, 3-1. He won it by a 3-1 margin in 2020. So like we're talking huge, overwhelming support for Democratic president in 2020. This election, Trump won the Dearborn vote with 47%, while Harris got 28%, and Jill Stein got 22%. So if your argument is, because this is what we've heard a lot too, is if your argument that it's people didn't vote for her because she's a woman, well, that's simply not true because between the votes for Harris and Stein, that's more than Trump. So like and both being women. So it wasn't about her being a woman. It wasn't about her being a woman of color because once again, along that same ballot, on that same ballot in Dearborn, Michigan, is the president where people selected Trump, and then one down they selected a woman of color, a Muslim woman of color, Rashida Tlaib. So it has nothing to do with her being a black woman. It has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has everything to do with her bombing their relatives. They're bombing their fellow countrymen, their fellow, whatever, however you want to call it. It's pretty simple. Like Harris would have won had she not supported the genocide in Gaza.
It's literally, this is all down to the genocide. If that didn't happen, I guarantee you, Harris would have probably blown Trump out.
And maybe like there's a little more to it than that. That might be a little reductive because like Arizona and Nevada, she still lost, and like where that's less of an issue. But like there's a lot of other things, right? The Harris website still never had any kind of campaign or platform policies. They had never had any specifics. She never actually said anybody what she was for. It was all just vibes based.
She did say one thing, and that's like she wanted to offer first-time homeowners, like, was it $25,000 basically from the government for a down payment.
Okay, that's
the only thing.
A friend of mine just bought a house here, which is a pretty modest fixer-upper house or whatever, and the down payment was a little under $200,000. So that would have been, how much is 25? That's what, 12% of what they need for a down payment.
I was about to say an eighth. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's.
Technically for a first-time house buyer, you don't have to put anything down.
Yeah.
I know a lot of
12% and an eighth are the same. We did the same math. We just went there in different directions.
Yeah.
Shout out to us.
There we go.
Yeah. So my point is that like that's nothing, and so like that's a bullshit policy. Like it's something, I guess, whatever, but like it's really nothing. 25,000 is like what out of touch people think like a down payment on a house is nowadays, but it's like how 25,000 to $1 million.
Here's the thing: Trump also meandered the same way. He's like, I'm gonna eliminate taxes. On tips.
But here's the thing though, is that like Republican voters fuck with vibes based stuff. That's their whole thing is like they don't understand how taxes work. They don't know what a tariff is. Of course they're vibes based because they have no fucking clue how government works. But Democrats are usually smarter than that, and we're going to talk about the educated vote here. But like Democrats are this isn't like a revelatory thing to say. Democrats are smarter than Republicans just across the board by like every metric known to math, like college degrees.
That's why a lot of people like turn around and be like, I'm too smart to look past your bullshit right now.
Yeah, and so that only hurt her. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So like, if you're only gonna do a shitty Republican-esque vibes-based campaign where you don't really talk, you just kind of like use buzzwords and have like Cardi B twerk or whatever, then like obviously people that are like, well, no, I want like actual facts. I need actual numbers. I need some kind of campaign advice or information. They're not going to vote for. So you have the genocide on the one hand, just an awfully ran campaign on the other that's all just brat summer vibes based. It offers no substance to anyone. While like meanwhile you have like guys who were like Arizona frat boys who were like supporting Trump or whatever, who are answering questions about why they're supporting Trump, and it's like, well, because inflation was lower with Trump or gas prices or whatever they're talking about. And it's like, I saw some interviews from Arizona people where like it's like, well, if you actually know anything about gas prices or inflation, like they're lower under Biden than they were under Trump. It's like obviously you don't know anything. No, but nobody is countering that. Harris isn't out there saying, well, actually, no, gas prices are lower now under our administration. She's not saying anything of substance. So like, it's just all vibes.
Or you could just turn it around, like and this still perpetuates like how fucking stupid the Democratic advisors are. You know, these campaign advisors, how they're setting it up, what they're telling her to say, because she could have easily just turned around and be like, actually, no, the inflation and all of these economic downfalls that are happening right now under our administration are actually Trump's doing. If you don't know much about economics, it takes a few years for actual economic and administrative laws to be placed and enacted. You know, sometimes they'll like, oh, we'll place this law, but it doesn't enact until 2 years later. Well, 2 years later is the fucking next president's term, right? And then it takes another year or two for the actual results of that economic plan to kick in. And if that's inflation, it takes years for inflation to rise. It's not like plan enacted, instant inflation. That's not how things work.
I remember that was always like the cringiest thing with like, because I used to be an Obama supporter in 2008, right? In 2012.
4 more years.
Well, I remember like that was like, because I was smart enough to like defend that, because people were like, oh, there's a 2008 recession. Obama was elected president in 2008. It must be his fault. And it's like, well, one thing, he wasn't sworn in until 2009. So the crash that happened at the early 08 and summer of 08 had fucking nothing to do with Obama. That was years of Republican like
that's 2 terms.
It was Bush's tax rollouts and
then
all of the deregulation of banks, the deregulation of the banks, and it's just all this shit. And then I remember just talking to like my family of being like, so the recession is Obama's fault, and I'm like, dude, no, it isn't, man.
And
sorry.
This is like the people that we have to fucking deal with.
Yeah.
We have to fucking hold their hand and walk them through fucking simple economics. We're not reading, fucking Marx here, where we're like dissecting Das Kapital, volume 1, 2, and 3. We're teaching them basic things like, did you know with tariffs, we have to, the company that is importing that product is paying the tariffs. And you're just like,
I still like love how Trump doesn't know what a tariff is.
Like, what the fuck, man? Well, it's like, what do you think? Because, like, how do you think this works? And they're like, yeah, the tariffs are going to return America. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't think you understand this. We're just getting, things are just getting more expensive.
Yeah.
Like, who do you think is going to take the fall for the higher prices?
And like,
we're going to take it.
You can't expect Republicans to not vote Trump because of like shit like that. But what you need to expect is on the Democrat side, like, to counter that by some kind of talking point. And Harris just never countered that. Like, it was like, you know what I mean? It never came to that. And like, sure, she offered some, like, I didn't listen to every single Harris like rally or campaign speech. Obviously, like, there's some policy like details, or no details, there's some policy like mentions, some policy vibes in there, but like it never went like as deep as like what it needed to be, what it should have been. Like, I was trying to go to her website, trying to find policies. Like, what is her stance on like weed? What is her stance on Medicare for all? What is her stance on like where does she want like a progressive tax rate to be at? Like a 90% like 40s, 50s pre area, or does she want some kind of like in between? Like, I don't know, because she doesn't know, because she never said. And then all the Democrats did was make fun of Trump for saying stuff like, you know, what was he say at the debate when he says he has like the beginnings of a plan or whatever he said? Remember?
Yeah.
And it's like,
you can't make the concept
of a plan, but you can't make fun of him if you were doing the same thing, if you don't have a plan either. And like, that was, I don't know, I found that very frustrating. Interesting. So we have that data for demographics, right? And so I was looking at education and education, people who have some college or college degrees that voted for Harris compared to Trump. So I'm going to break down some of this data for a second. So this is from the AP. It's an article on like the demographics of just the different groups that voted for Harris. And I'm looking specifically at education because that's what we're talking about. So people with either some college or a college degree for Harris, that's a total of 30 plus 29%. So what is that? 59% of people with college or some college. Yeah. For Trump, though, it's 33 plus 25. More people with some college voted for Trump, and just 4% less. It's 58 total percent to 57%. It's almost dead even between Harris and Trump. People with degrees, people who are on average more intelligent or at least more educated, it should never be that close between a Republican and a Democrat. But Trump only lost that by 1%. And that's my point, is that like educated people are split on Trump and Harris, which is like mind-blowing, and that's how bad of a candidate she was.
I think also, true, I will give you that, but I also think that somebody that is educated is usually well-versed in geopolitics, is usually well-read, and a lot of people that are well-educated just didn't vote. Or they voted.
Oh yeah, that's my point.
They just didn't vote. Yeah. It's not like they voted more for Trump. It's just like they voted less.
Yeah, I mean, we know that, right? Because Trump only got 2 million less votes, but Harris got 14 million less votes than Biden. So it's not that these people showed up for Trump; it's just that they stayed home. Yeah. And like, you can't blame them if they have nobody to support, no real candidate of substance.
And it's like, it's not the voters' fault; it's the fucking politicians.
And I don't want to hear any bullshit about third-party votes, because we were looking over data. There was like no state that would have been switched by a third-party vote. Third-party votes,
not a single swing
which
state,
I'm actually sad about. I wish they had. I wish I could take credit for that. I wish I could say, yes, me voting for Claudia and Karina affected Harris. I fucked over Harris in a swing. First of all, I don't live in a swing state. We don't live in a swing state. So like, Washington was never up for grabs. Although not for nothing, but it was a lot closer than it had been. Like in previous years for Biden, Washington was not that close. It was like, I can pull up the actual Washington election results. Overall, Harris won by 58 to 38 or 39, 58 to 39. And I'll pull up the 2020 elections here in a second. But I wish I could claim that like our vote for a third party cost Harris a state, because then that would say something.
There was not more third party votes.
That's a bummer.
I was dead surprised. I mean, with the options that we have, with the amount of marketing that these third parties are doing over the internet, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. I mean, even like a big channel like Channel 5 with 7 million followers had, I believe they talked to Jill Stein about the Green Party. And I was just surprised that, they didn't get like 2-3% of the vote. They didn't get 1% of the vote. They got 0.5%.
Yeah, like 300,000 or something. Like it's nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And I remember back in 2016, they had like 5% of the vote.
Yeah, there was quite a bit more. And
4 or 5.
I think, I mean, I don't know what to chalk that up to.
More.
Yeah, I don't know what to chalk that up to. I mean, I actually don't have any kind of data for that. Okay, here I have Washington's vote in. Okay, actually, it was about the same. It was 58-39. It was exactly the same. Biden, Trump. So I misspoke there. I'll admit that I was wrong. I thought Washington was closer this year than in 2020, meaning that people just didn't stay home while Trump supporters came out. But no, I guess that's not true. Anyway,
but
sorry.
Not for Washington State though. That's the thing. It's just like for Washington State, people are just like, I'm gonna vote for Kamala regardless because people are fucking liberals here. You know, people like I was like, oh, Seattle is a fucking safe haven for fucking leftists. I'm like, there's no real fucking leftists here. Don't get me wrong. I take that back. There are a ton of leftists here. There's radical parties here. But I'm saying for the majority of the population who call themselves progressive or leftists, they're just fucking liberals that don't hate gay people, right? Or that are very open with social issues.
Yeah.
But they're not radicals and in any sense of the imagination.
No, not at all. You know? Not at all. Yeah, and I will say that there is a certain thing because like there is a reality here. Before we move in and talk about some of the smaller stuff like the House and Senate and the governors and all those, I do want to just kind of touch on like that while we understand and we don't support Harris and we don't care that she lost, we do understand that there is a reality of like people who are people of color or who are queer or in some way oppressed, for lack of a better term. Like there is kind of a more of a reality, and like we do live in Washington where I just want to like I was talking to this to my students because I have some students who are kind of freaked out because I have a lot of queer students, and I was just like, well, keep in mind though that like I use weed as the analogy of like weed is a Schedule I narcotic federally. It is considered by Trump and by the federal government in general as bad, if not like worse than heroin. Marijuana is, and it is like the hardest drug you can do according to the federal government, and I can go to a dispensary on any street corner in Washington.
That's why I'm hardcore, man.
That's why you're so hardcore. And my point to that to my students was like the point is that states have a lot more power than you think they do, and the president has a lot less power than you think he does. And so like if Trump did some like heinous national concentration camp ban on queer people, like Washington would tell him to fuck himself. Like,
yeah, what are you gonna do?
You know what I mean? Like, just like they did with weed. Like, and obviously it's not a complete 1-for-1 because it's kind of a non-enforcement thing with federal weed. But like, states have more power. And so if you are listening to this and you are kind of worried and you think that we're privileged white guys who can say this stuff because we are not on any kind of like list. Well, for one thing, we're both registered communists, so we definitely are on that list. But for a second thing,
I'm also an immigrant,
and you're a Muslim immigrant.
I'm a communist Muslim.
Yeah.
Like, bro, like I got that shit tatted on me. They know where to find me.
Yeah. So like, first of all, we're not quite as insulated as you think we are. Second of all, like, states have the power. So yeah, if you're living in Alabama and you're a queer person or a communist, we definitely feel for you. But if you're living in California or Oregon or Washington, you're gonna be fine. But
here's the thing. Like I get like the whole. I want to say the whole. I understand like the anxiety and the fear of this now happening with Donald Trump and a full roundhouse of fucking Congress and the judicial branch and the executive branch being under the hold of the Republican power. However, remember when your rights for abortion were taken away in Alabama, that was under the Democratic
that was a Democratic
administration. So
and a Democratic
these
House
people
and
would not,
Senate. Or not House, but Senate. Yeah. So
these people are. It's not going to make too much of a difference. What they were going to do, they're going to do regardless.
Yeah. Also, like, listen, go back and I challenge you to Google. Once again, because we had no policy answers for Harris, but try to find her stance on trans issues, and she was always very cagey about it. And her answer was, "Let the states decide." So her answer is the same fucking answer as Trump's. So like, let the states decide. That's code for I don't want to touch that because if I say I'm in favor of it, I'll lose conservative blue dog Democrats, and if I say I'm not in favor of it, then I'll lose the leftist base. So that's just a shady politician answer because she isn't in favor of like trans protection. She isn't really in favor of abortion.
Because that just tells you she doesn't.
Yeah,
you don't know what she actually
either
is.
doesn't know or doesn't care what her policies are because she just wants power.
Just blowing the wind. Where's the fucking opinion going?
So I would challenge. I'm seeing a lot of stuff of like if you care about women, you'll vote for Harris. And I'm like, fucking Harris doesn't care about women. Harris doesn't care about queer people. Harris doesn't care about people of color.
If they did, they would have fucking implemented in the Constitution that abortion is a right.
And she wouldn't have fucking the highest like rate of like incarcerating black people in California or like promoting slavery in California, like
or laughing at the idea of legalizing marijuana in California.
or shutting people up when they talk about genocide. So like, I don't know. I think just get your head out of your ass. Like, if you thought Harris was your savior, you are mistaken, and you like kind of not deserve this, but like if you thought Harris was your savior, like it's a
wake up call.
Yeah, let this be a wake up call that she was never going to save you. You can only save yourself. We can only save each other. A corporate Democrat who was pro-slavery and like anti-gay, anti-abortion is not going to save you.
Exactly.
Not that she was openly anti-abortion, but by all accounts, like by all rights, she was, because she never did anything to support it. So like, what's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. They could have ratified and codified into the Constitution
At any point.
At any point, executive order, abortion rights, Roe v. Wade. But they didn't.
Anyway.
They didn't even fight back. They just said a couple of cliches and puns about, we gotta be careful. We gotta make sure to fight back against fight back. Then do something. You're not doing anything.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about House and Senate and governors?
Yeah, fuck them. That's it.
We lost the House and the Senate. And by we, I mean Democrats lost the House and the Senate. Lost the Senate by what? There's still a couple of races to be called, but it appears that it's going to be 47 to 53 Democrats, Republicans. That includes 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. So by all accounts, it's they went from a 50-50. They lost a total of 3 seats, or they will lose a total of 3 seats. There's still some counting going on. It looks like Ruben Gallego is going to beat Carrie Lake, although that race is pretty close, which is a good thing. Carrie Lake is an actual fucking sociopath. But Ruben Gallego, and like I said on Tuesday, I don't hate Ruben Gallego. He is kind of like a blue and on like Democrat, but at least he's funny on Twitter. He cusses a lot on Twitter, which I appreciate. He'll like just like, if nothing else, he calls out MAGA people like, no, you're a fucking idiot. Like he's actually pretty straight faced about it. He's not he's not a politician about it, which I can respect that, at least, if nothing else.
Correct.
So yeah, it looks like it's going to be 47 to 53. Senate, the 2 races have yet to be called. Currently it's 53 to 45 in favor of Republicans. There's 2 races yet to be called, which is Arizona and Nevada, but it looks
they're gonna win.
They're probably gonna win unless there's like a dump of ballots from some pocket of the state that's like pretty conservative. They're gonna win.
Yeah.
That's for the Senate. So we lost. I'm gonna use we colloquially here. The House also a pretty big loss. Pretty big loss so far. I mean, the Republicans always held the House, but it's going to be even more of a one-sided. It's still going to be kind of close. It's going to end up being like 200 to 20 something. So they're going to have like a 20-ish vote lead, where I think before they had like a 6 vote lead or something.
Well, here's the thing: a lot of laws, like major laws that want to be passed through House and the Senate, have to have like a 2/3 vote or something like that. So anything that is like major that's being changed, the Constitution is being changed.
Yeah, like a lot of votes in Congress just need a simple majority, which is half plus 1, 217 plus 1, I think, or 218. But some things do require a 2/3 majority, like any kind of like veto, change. Any kind of a constitution change, veto. I think like anytime they're kind of doing any kind of voting or swearing in of people, like an impeachment or anything like that, it requires 2/3. A lot of things require 2/3. Most like bills to pass just need a simple majority, but a lot of their more important stuff requires 2/3, and they're closer now. They would just need a few conservative Democrats to switch instead of more. So I don't know. Not a lot to say there. Governors, I believe governors was a net.
Bet you Joe Manchin's gonna become a Republican here soon.
Just as like a power grab, just like see which way the wind's blowing and just actually register to Republican.
Democrats. What else do you expect?
I wouldn't put it past them.
The West Virginia, they're like, you know what? Over time, my alignments have actually floated more towards Mr. Donald Trump.
I think the governors say the same. It's still 27 to 23. I believe that was the same. I'm actually not 100% sure how many governors were split Dem and Republican, but I don't think there were any pickups or changes to that. And that's it. I mean, there's a bunch of ballot measures. I think everything passed in Washington, or everything didn't pass in Washington, except for the like natural gas tax, which we don't have to talk too much about because most of our listeners aren't in Washington. But all of the ones that I wished didn't pass, so that's good. Like they didn't. The one that was like increasing salaries for cops by taking away money from schools or whatever, that one didn't pass.
That one was a specific one for your.
Oh, is that just me?
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a different one that was increasing other like types of. It was very similar, but I actually went online and read it, and ours was a little bit better. They're like they want to decrease public safety and everything.
Yeah.
But if you go online, it talks about how they want to increase certain like psychiatric hospitals.
Oh,
and stuff
okay.
like
Mine
that.
was straight up just law enforcement salaries.
Yeah, no. Ours was like it would help them, but also a lot of it would go to
also.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was
sneak
like,
it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I honestly voted yes for it because a lot of it's voted to help like increase hospitals and stuff like that.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's one of those ones where you just what do you call that? There's a word for that on like a congressional bill where they'll add like not an earmark. There's I forget. There's like a congressional word for it.
I know what you're talking about.
Where it's like it's not a cloture motion. It's like or if you have a bill that's like all about like yada yada yada, you add just something on, you tack something on as like an amendment to the bill, which is like completely unrelated. So if you're voting to increase funding for like K-12 schools across the country, the amendment says that like, but you also have to like defund Planned Parenthood or something, and it's like you can't have one without the other because Republicans will just tack on something to the bill. And like I forget there's a word for it. I think it's like
correct.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know anything else to say about the election. I mean, this whole thing is going to be loosely based on the election.
We
didn't talk about this.
God, what was that state one that you said didn't that passed?
It was like the gas, the Washington one.
Yeah, that.
And I actually don't know. It was still being counted. I can pull that up. It was just, I mean, this is very specific Washington ballot measures.
Well, that's okay. A lot of people that listen to us are actually from Washington, so this is
that's fair.
Good to know.
Yeah, it was the one. Let me pull up the details. It was one that would. I didn't like it. It was like a natural gas tax that I did not care for. Ensures access to natural gas. That passed. So the ballot measure would ensure access to natural gas in homes and other buildings and repeal a state law requiring plans to transition from the use of natural gas to electricity. Okay, so this is the one that like in Washington, all new homes that are built can't have natural gas. They all have to be electric. Like I don't have a gas stove. Nobody I know has a gas stove in Washington because it's like gas is essentially outlawed. It repealed that. So basically now new homes can have gas stoves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's
bullshit.
Just it's kind of like just not very green, basically.
It's supposed to where instead of going to towards a green and
more electric,
energy, they're like, no, bring the gas back.
Yeah.
God damn it! Do you remember when they were talking? When Trump was talking about gas stoves, natural gas?
Yeah.
They're trying to ban your gas stoves.
Yeah. Well, we were. I mean, like Washington had already banned gas stoves, basically. But this passed. It was pretty close. It was within about 100,000 votes, actually. So. Pretty close. I mean, people want gas stoves. I mean, it's not for nothing, but as like I don't want to sound too like pretentious, but as like an amateur chef, an amateur cook.
Cooks, I understand.
Yeah, I would much rather have a gas stove. I want like a fire range. I fucking hate my electric burners. They're just bad. They're bad for cooking. They're bad for like heat distribution. They're bad. And I would much rather have a flame stove. I am willing to sacrifice that for like in the name of like green energy. So like I get it. And I understand why people didn't, and there's apparently 100,000 people in Washington that agree with me that gas stoves are better. The one that repealed a capital gains tax that failed, it would basically like repeal a capital gains tax.
And notice how every single fucking initiative that
was a repeal of something.
Is a repeal of like something good.
Repeal on a cap on carbon emissions that was on the ballot was to like remove the cap on carbon emissions to let people emit as much as they want. That one luckily passed, or excuse me, didn't pass.
But like, how did all of these initiatives get on there, but nothing that was like positive to add on to it? That's like how. Like I genuinely don't like get like how the fuck did they get enough like signatures or whatever the fuck you need to get these initiatives.
You don't. I mean, it's really easy to get a ballot initiative on if it's like if it's a citizen led one. It's like 1% of registered voters in any given county or something, or like 3% of registered voters. It's not very much. I don't know the actual numbers, but in Arizona, I know it was Arizona. It was not very much. It might be different for Washington. I don't know the data on Washington, but in Arizona, it was like really simple to get something. You just had to hang out in front of a business for a couple days or a few days or whatever with
get on to a fucking state fucking initiative.
Yeah, it's just a percentage of registered voters in. Well, because it's not a state thing, it's like a county by county thing, or by district, because like yours was different from mine. Mm-hmm. So if there's like 1 million registered voters in Seattle, you need like 10,000, like 1% or something. So like it's really not that hard, as I understand it. I could be wrong, but this is all from Arizona. So this because I looked into it because Arizona and Colorado, and there's only a handful of states that allow citizen initiatives like a ballot measure to be.
We should start one to legalize prostitution.
What's that?
Start one to legalize prostitution.
For Washington? I don't know if Washington is a state where citizens can add a ballot measure.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if
we did one for marijuana.
I don't know where these come from. Yeah, I don't know where these come from though. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Is how are these being?
Because these could come from the state house. So the state representatives put forward a ballot measure to get added to the ballot. So that's crazy, so in Arizona it comes from 3 places. I think it's a citizen, the state house, and I think I forget how the third one works. I don't know. I had to learn this in college. I had to take I have 2 copies of a book upstairs called Understanding the Arizona Constitution. It's a book on how the Arizona's government works and operates. It was actually fucking pretty eye-opening because it's all about how the Arizona Senate works, how the Arizona House of Representatives work, the Arizona State House, the governors, because Arizona has a lieutenant governor system and not a vice, not a assistant governor or vice governor or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well. All right. Well, let's.
I guess the one thing we didn't talk about was this, and this is just a quick aside. It's just a kind of funny thing about the Dems, which is they've promised that they're gonna adhere to this high road, this if they go low, we'll go high kind of thing. And there's 2 things here. One is they've promised that there'd be a smooth transition of power. And if you've spent the entire campaign saying that your enemy is a literal is the defeater of democracy, he's literally going to end democracy, Western democracy as we know it. If your campaign has been saying for 2 years that he's an out-and-out fascist, that he is an actual threat to democracy, why then would you say, but we're going to ensure a smooth transition of power and we're going to hand over the reins to them?
We're going to smoothly transition into a fascist
democracy. So either you never believed that and it was just lies and campaign rhetoric, or you're okay with fascism. Either way, you're an asshole. So I don't know. I just think that's funny. So my second point was and I've been seeing some of this discourse on Twitter and Instagram, which is Democrats have the chance to do the funniest thing possible on January 6th, which is storm the Capitol. Dude, of course they never would because they're Democrats.
I would love that. I would love that. But it's just my God.
If you believe he's a fascist, then
we're going to go and videotape
just you and I. Yeah, we'll go storm the Capitol.
Oh, no.
It's just funny because if you actually believe he's a fascist and if you actually believe he's a threat to democracy, then wouldn't that mean it's your duty to storm the Capitol? Well, no, because Democrats have no morals and they have no backbone and they have no principles. So no. So I don't know. I just thought
they agree with them 85% of the time.
I just thought that was funny. That just that's if you ever needed a bigger indictment of the Democratic Party, or if there was ever something to make you lose faith in the Democratic Party, that should be it right there, right? That is, they basically it's a self-own of well, then they are okay with a threat to democracy, they're okay with fascism, or they lied the whole time. Either way, why would you support them?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous to have this concept of this person is a fascist, he will end democracy. Let's smoothly transition.
Yeah, let's support him and let's give him everything he needs. Yeah. I don't know. We can quickly just talk about this. I saw this on the news today. It just made me kind of I hate Elon Musk so much, and I hate talking about Elon Musk, but he's going to be important to talk about in the future.
Mr. Barrel Chest over here.
Yeah, dude. God.
Have you seen those photos?
Yeah,
Have you seen the most recent one of those?
I didn't know how obese he was. I don't know.
I don't even know if he's obese. He just looks
he's just weird proportions.
He's got a 400-pound tumor in his chest, and it just looks like a barrel. It looks like Gru from the Minions or whatever.
Yeah, that's a chicken legs and a big chest.
I gotta put the image up here, bro.
Put them side by side.
Image.
So a thing about Trump, a thing about Musk is that so Trump is making some calls. He's doing his diplomat thing, and he had a phone call with Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, and it's his typical bullshit. Because I guess Trump has been saying on the campaign that he's going to stop all aid to Ukraine, and that's been his kind of one of the talking points. Is he's kind of been hesitant about all this aid to Ukraine, which is sure, I mean, fine, whatever. I also have a problem with all this aid to Ukraine. So Ukraine and Zelensky had been kind of nervous for a Trump victory because Biden also said that preparing for a Trump victory, the White House is going to try to put as much aid packages together as they can between now and the transition, because they're just going to try to throw as much money and aid at Ukraine as they can in the inevitable inevitability that
Trump's
Trump's going to cut him off.
Yeah.
And so like, which I thought was like kind of silly. Like Biden is going to go out of his way to give as much money as he can to Zelensky, assuming that Trump's going to stop. So it's like, man, you're just trying to like nut hug Zelensky so hard. But I guess Zelensky was on a phone call with Trump, and I guess by all accounts, all the anonymous sources, all the sources from that phone call said that like Zelensky walked away feeling really good. So I think that like Trump isn't going to cut off aid just based on that conversation. But the bigger story there is that guess who kind of butted in on that phone call? Elon Musk. So you have these like high level phone calls between like the president elect and like foreign presidents about like the war in Ukraine and like pretty serious conversations. Yeah. And you also have Elon Musk on that phone call. Dude, and it just like it brings up a bigger question of like how integral of this next administration is Musk going to be? Like, I would not be surprised if he's like just a staple in the administration. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets like a cabinet position or something.
Oh, I would not be surprised.
Or at least some kind of like advisor on like advisor on tech, or like advisor on like a business advisor, a tech advisor of some kind. You could
probably make a whole new fucking
like department.
Department, yes. You know, the but Jesus Christ, the Secretary of Tech.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, the SpaceLink satellites,
put them in charge of NASA. That's probably
well, they're the ones supplying Ukraine with like basically like all of their military intelligence. The Wi-Fi in Ukraine is all coming like free of charge from Musk. Like Musk is using his satellite infrastructure to like basically keep the like intelligence and like technology infrastructure in Ukraine alive. It's all coming from Musk. And so like that's why he was on the call, is because he, not for nothing, he is like a huge part of Ukraine's like defense system.
Yeah, but hear this out. Maybe if it's going to keep going, if I'm going to keep giving you free shit, maybe the American government provides me directly as a provider instead of giving Zelensky money. They give me money to
defense
give you
contracts and stuff,
to give you the free internet, to give you, you know, the ability to contact other people. Maybe I think Musk might just be like, I want to make money off of this.
Yeah.
Musk,
for sure. And
Trump, please provide me with the cash to provide Zelensky and his.
Read that headline. Speaking of money.
Elon Musk's net worth rockets over to $300 billion as Trump wins fuel optimism for Tesla and SpaceX.
Musk has, this is a fortune website. Actually, like we had this as an article we were talking about earlier. Yeah, earlier it was $256 billion. His Elon Musk's personal fortune has risen since the election. Now it's over $300 billion. I mean, he's like $50 billion a day. He's getting no more than $50 billion a day.
That's not even real. Let's just start real.
That's how much money. That's how much money Musk has made since Tuesday, since the election. Elon Musk's personal wealth has increased by $300 billion in 4 days.
That's just not real. Like, I just don't like.
Yeah. So like that's
where's the $50 billion
these numbers are coming from consumer confidence in Tesla and SpaceX.
I have zero confidence.
Yeah, I have zero confidence. But like consumer confidence in the market has, like, the stock value of all of his companies has skyrocketed since Trump's, because like Trump and Musk are inextricably linked now, and like, for good or ill, Musk is a part of this administration.
Well, that's what I'm saying is not only because you were talking about earlier about how Musk is now like one of the biggest contributors to Republican campaign.
Oh, he's a Republican mega donor.
Yeah, he's a Republican mega donor now, and that's not for nothing because he expects a return from it. That return could easily be something like this.
As dumb as Musk is, he wouldn't just give $75 billion to Trump without like a deal worked out, without some kind of negotiation of, I'm giving you $75 billion, in return I want
$150 billion
or what, I don't know what, a position, defense contracts. I mean, who knows what was said between Trump and Musk, but something was said. Like, you don't give $75 billion to a politician without expecting something in return, right?
Exactly.
And as dumb and as notoriously bad a businessman as Musk is, even he's not dumb enough to just give away $75 billion. He's dumb enough to give money. He gave away $44 billion for Twitter, but 75, maybe, I don't know. Maybe he is dumb enough because he did give away $45 billion for Twitter.
But here's the thing. It came all back, apparently. He didn't even have to do anything, right? But here's the thing.
That's fair. That's a good point.
Here's the thing about, like, Musk. I was going to say it.
Lost train of thought.
Yeah. Well, in general, Musk is not just... Like, for example, he's not just about money. He's about power, right? So that Twitter wasn't a flex to make more money. Twitter was an
control
opportunity.
Control the media. Yeah, a lot of reasons, sure.
And so I see him as a power-hungry person.
Oh, 100%.
That sees an opportunity not only to make money, but this is what I was going to say, is that we all know that, and we all know that corporations know the easiest way to make a profit, the highest profit possible is actually through government contracts. Because if you look at like how the military industrial complex charges the American government through our taxpayer dollars,
obscene amounts of money.
You look at the receipts, because they did they finally did like
an audit,
audit
like
on the
last year or 2 years ago.
I
forget who it was. It was like that DOJ or DOD spokesperson was like answering questions about that audit, and they couldn't account for like billions. Like it was just like,
and not just that, the shit that they could account for, they were overcharging like nothing. They sold a pen to the army
for a pack of Post-its. You know what I mean? It's like,
it was like they were charging $2,000 a pen, and that's what I mean. This is like pure profit.
Yeah, they're signing. They're signing blank checks. They're signing like they're just signing away stuff, and like nobody's actually reading what they're buying. And so like Lockheed and Boeing or whatever, they're fucking padding those invoices. You know what I mean? For sure. And so like Trump wants in on that sweet defense.
And so
money.
does Elon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Elon. Yeah.
And so if Elon's like thinking like man, I can't. Who am I going to sell SpaceX to, right?
Director of Space Force.
There we go. Oh, my God.
That's what he's promised.
Oh, my God.
That's my prediction.
Elon Musk, Director of Space Force.
Or General or whatever that's a legitimate branch of our military
General
now.
of the Galactica Force.
Yeah, that would be so fucking perfect for Elon Musk, because that's how Elon Musk.
Article.
Yeah.
Like that is an Onion article,
dude.
Man.
Yeah, but like that's like Elon Musk sees himself as like some like Star Trek captain or whatever, and so like I bet you, god damn it,
except Star Trek was like set in a fucking
I feel it in my bones utopia. That's the thing is like I think it was Cody Johnson who said that is like they want this to be like
he wants to be the Sith.
They want this to be Star Trek, and they want this to be all this like futuristic stuff, and it's like in every one of those examples it's like a socialist utopian society, and it's like you don't actually understand those things, or you don't really want those things. Either way, you're wrong.
They want Star Wars and they want the Empire.
Right? But like you want it to be Star Trek, but really you're the Empire.
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't. Damn, I feel it in my bones. Like that would be a perfect place to feed his weird ego, because Elon Musk is like an egomaniac. He's a sociopath. He's an absolute like power hungry monster.
Galactic commander.
But he's also dumb, and he's also vain and arrogant, and like I don't know. I could just feel himself like that's what he wanted, just to be in charge of the military, so he could put on a uniform and like
of this.
Yeah,
just for pussy.
Maybe, I don't know. He has like a weird eugenics breed. He has like a breeding fetish where he's petitioned to like set up or like to a bunch of different. Have you heard all this stuff about Elon Musk and his eugenic factory?
Breeding fetish?
Oh yeah, he has like
not with that barrel chest.
No. He's one of the, I forget what it's called. He's one of those people. He's one of those people that wants to just like implant his seed in as many women as he can. He's like a real eugenics weird vibe. There's like a whole underbelly of like Nazi eugenics to Elon Musk that I'll have to come back to because I don't remember the full details. But like he's weirder and worse than you think in every way. He's the worst. He's just the worst.
But who wants his barrel chest of genetics anyway?
Nobody. But he thinks because he's like has the biggest brain of all time or something. Because he
has the biggest chest of all time.
Well, okay? I mean, yeah, because he had enough money. He made enough money in slave mines to like buy a company. He thinks he's like a genius businessman, but he's really not.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
man.
I don't know. That's all I wanted to say about Elon Musk. But we'll have to come back to that. And there's another aspect to all of this we want to just bring up too, and this is where we're going to get a little less fun. Not that Trump being president is fun, but we just want to like keep in mind that there was an update on Al Jazeera. As of today, there was an article. I think it was an article from November 8th. Yeah, it was from today. Which just kind of, I saw this, I just was scrolling Al Jazeera and I saw this article and I wanted to kind of bring it up. Almost 70%, nearly 70% of all deaths in Gaza are women or children. 44% of that 70% are children. And these numbers are pretty high. And now the 70% figure is from like the official death count that as last count. So this is still around 40,000 or whatever. So of the 40,000, 70% are women and children. We obviously know that number is much higher, but like this is just like if from the scientific study, they have to use like what the official like count is, or at least as best they record. And so they're using that data. So obviously this is probably much worse. And just to kind of highlight the stark and severity of this, the youngest person to have been killed in Gaza is a day-old baby, a baby that was 1 day old, and the oldest person to have been killed in Gaza was a woman who was 97 years old. So just while all of this distraction from American nonsense is happening, I think it was today Israel bombed 2 UN schools in the north of Gaza that were being used as UN refugees. There were schools that was like UN sanctioned refugee like buildings. 2 of them were bombed by Israel, and 70% of all deaths in Gaza are women and children. So yeah, So just, there is still an active genocide happening. There is still an extermination of Palestinians taking place. And don't let this circus of American politics distract you from the real problem, which is American imperialism and Western imperialism.
Yeah. I mean, all I really have to say about that is, as this election is now over and we kind of scroll past, American politics a little bit, we'll be coming back to international news more, because this, the election process is big in the US, as everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it's over, we can actually put more effort into doing a bit more research and a bit more in depth of news.
Yeah, it won't just be a distraction anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Although I am quite worried about, with Trump going on, the shit that's going to happen. So, I mean, we'll keep you updated, obviously.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is like, this was also a big talking point of like from liberals, is like the actual mental gymnastics of we have to re-elect an administration committing a genocide in order to stop a genocide. That's something they actually believed. And it's like, well, Trump is going to be worse. And it's like, maybe not, but I'm not going to support the person actually doing the genocide right now. And also, I don't know how it can really get worse. Like, a genocide's a genocide. It's a binary thing. You can speed it up, I guess, but that doesn't make it less of a genocide. And so, like, that's what your argument is like, under Harris, the genocide is genocide,
and Trump's going to be like, yeah, kill him, freaking Arabs.
Yeah, and like, honestly, I saw a tweet. I think it was a Caitlin Johnstone tweet, who's like has pretty good takes consistently. I think maybe I'll try to find it, but it was saying something like, honestly, like, the thing I like about Trump is like, they say the same things. Obama and Trump are pretty similar, except Obama had a very like crafty, he hid his evil and like he hid his destruction of innocent lives.
He's a proper politician.
Yeah, but Trump is like, yeah, I am a Zionist owned like candidate. I am gonna like blow up these villages of innocent people. And it's like, okay, cool, I know where I stand with you. And like, there is a certain value in that. And I'm not saying like Trump is like better or worse for it, or that I agree that Trump is better in office. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if he is in office and that is the reality, I would rather it be somebody who is very mask off about what their evil intentions are, because it's much easier to combat that.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of harder to argue with somebody, but like, well, we don't know if she believes that.
We didn't know if what Obama was doing until well after, right? Like, we didn't really know he was bombing Yemeni weddings left and right and just mass murdering civilians until later, because he was so smooth. He was such a smooth talking politician. But like, Trump goes out and brags about it. So it's like, yeah, I'd rather have that.
Yeah, exactly. So like, at least that person is very open, and you know who your enemy is.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to argue against a person who's so open.
Yeah.
Right. But that's one thing. It's like with Kamala Harris, is like, well, we don't know. She hasn't making a statement on her campaign. Oh, Israel has a right to protect itself, but what Israel's doing is too much. You need to tone it down. And Trump's like,
yeah, but that's just lip service. She never actually did anything to her. Yeah.
I know what that's what I'm saying is like, she's saying some things, and Trump is like, I don't think Israel went far enough.
Yeah.
And so we know where we stand.
Okay. And now we know what we have to do.
We cannot make arguments saying, well, maybe Trump actually supports the Palestinians and this is just a mind game. It's like, no, like, he has said certain things and we know exactly where he stands. And that's why yes, he is more fascistic. Don't get me wrong.
100%, yeah.
But it is also easier to combat their narratives because they state them so openly and simply, and we can just combat that with such easy rebuttals. Versus the Democrats, it's like, it's easy to combat what they're saying, but nobody wants to listen because nobody believes you.
Yeah, and there are some other silver linings to this whole thing too, right? Which is that among now nothing fueled left-wing membership and donations and people showing up to support causes than a Trump presidency. So like, all of a sudden, people stopped caring about the kids in cages in 2020 after Biden was elected. I'm excited, but it's still there. They haven't changed at all. So like, if this means that now people are going to start caring and start like acting on the kids in cages again, then that's a net positive.
Yeah.
If people are all going to, if a bunch of liberals are going to suddenly just grow a conscience and decide that genocide is actually bad, maybe, and they start coming over to our side to protesting genocide, to coming out to the Free Palestine rallies, that they didn't for the last 4 years because they're out to brunch, then that's a net positive.
Yeah.
There are a lot of net positives to a Trump campaign from a Marxist perspective, and that's
accelerationist.
Yeah, that's sketchy because it makes me sound like a MAGA communist or it makes me sound like an accelerationist. But I'm talking about. But there is a dialogue. Like if we're talking about dialectical materialism, when we're talking about the materialist conditions of people on the ground, if you're out at a Free Palestine rally in 2023 and you're now at a Pre-Palestine rally in 2025, the difference between the two is that under Trump presidency in 2025, you have more comrades to your left and right, and
which might help stop the fucking genocide.
And if that's the only difference at that rally, then that's a net positive. Yeah. If your mutual aid group that gives food to the homeless on Saturdays and Sundays every week in 2023 had X number of members and now in 2025 have 2X number of members, then for that for that conditions, that's a net positive.
Correct.
And if you just multiply that across every aspect, across fundraising, across donations to ACLU, donations to a bunch of human rights groups on the borders, mutual aid groups, political campaigns for leftist candidates that are fighting fascism, like all of these, like these are just not isolated things. That is the result of a Trump presidency. If this gets liberals to wake up and realize that for the past 4 years they've been out to brunch and things haven't gotten any better or have gotten worse since Trump's first campaign, that Biden didn't make anything better, then that's a net positive. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that. No. I'm okay with that.
No, it's here's the thing. It's just like from a realistic perspective, we are not accelerationists. We do not want things. We do not want things purposely to get worse, so they suddenly somehow get
But
better,
we are
faster.
realists and pragmatists.
But realistically, this is what will make things change.
Yeah, this will be better for our causes.
And so, I don't know how to put this. Here, I'll put it this way simply: through the Democrats, you just get enough crumbs where you don't fucking revolt.
Yeah.
But under the Republicans, and say for somebody like Trump specifically, it's going to cause such a disturbance that more people will be engaged and something can actually change, right? If sometimes, those people that always have to hit rock bottom for their life to change. Sometimes maybe it's better for them to hit rock bottom and their life changes and they become a better person or a better version of themselves versus just staying that mediocre person your whole life, right? If that makes any sense.
No, I get you.
And it's the same as a society. Sometimes society has hit a rock bottom for society to have enough influence to change and become better versus just being this fucking slowly inflated fucking halfway. People are homeless, people are not homeless, people have enough food and then they don't have enough food, people have enough money for rent and they don't have enough money for rent. This fucking eternal capitalistic wave of crashes and rises.
Yeah, which Marx predicted, by the way.
Yeah, and so like it's better to just fucking let it crash, rebuild it, and have a stable community, a stable society, than something that just is unstable. I don't know what other way to explain it without sounding like we're fucking accelerations wanting the entire U.S. fucking to collapse.
And if you want to call me a tanky accelerationist, then by all means go for it. But I'll see you at the rally on Saturday. I don't really give a shit what liberals call me. Like, I just don't care. Like, I had this conversation with the guy in my DMs. Was it fucking yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And it was like, I posted something on my Instagram story about like this. I mean, like, it's obvious Harris lost. It was like it was a meme that was like, you ran a campaign supported by Dick Cheney about like while committing a genocide, while like laughing at the people, like laughing about murdering children. And like, is it a shock you lost? And the guy was like, you left the door open for Trump to come in, basically. And I was like, well, no, I didn't. Harris did. Like, the Democratic Party did. Like,
yeah.
That's what this person like fails to understand is like,
if the Democratic Party never did this would never happen.
Yeah, I didn't vote for Harris, but like, it wouldn't have made a difference if
Don't
I had.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, like that. Basically, that it's like. You're so like liberals have such a weird like tunnel vision on like identity politics of like, or this like, I don't know, this identity aspect of like, you have to vote for our team or you're the enemy. And that goes back to what we said at the beginning of them being like openly like antagonistic and openly like xenophobic and racist and like pretty vile to like Arabs and anyone who didn't vote for, like Mexicans or Latinos, Hispanics who didn't vote for Trump, like in Arizona. They're like, I hope you get deported. You know what I mean? I'm going to report you now because you didn't vote, didn't vote for Trump, didn't vote for Harris. And like, they're like, liberals are awful people and like they deserve this, obviously, but like the people that are going to be hurt by Trump didn't. And so like, but Trump, my bigger point here is too, is that liberals have a real big problem of like only showing up every 4 years, patting themselves on the back for like doing all you can do in to help your community, and then turning around and bashing leftists for not supporting their team, while leftists are out here every day militantly labor and tenant organizing, mutual aid, like running direct action campaigns against all manner of policies,
physically protesting,
doing everything they can to like help their communities,
to change things
every day, every week for 4 years, while a liberal will come out and vote once every 4 years and like then act all high and mighty like they're doing something that's going to change the world
when they really don't know shit.
It's just very frustrating.
They don't know shit.
Yeah. And then I also, we talked about like why I didn't vote for Harris, this person, and I said mainly it's a genocide thing. That's my red line, is like Harris is supporting a genocide. And they said something that was like, that's like, if that's your one issue, like that's boring, or like, you know, like that's a dumb take. Like that shouldn't be your red line. Like basically they said something incredibly offensive.
Let him say that to me. I swear to God, I'll fucking punch him in the goddamn face.
Well, it was over Instagram. This person lives on the East Coast.
I'll punch him through the goddamn phone.
But let me see what they actually said. I'll pull up their quote, because it was like pretty fucking wild. And I said, because they said, but willing to step aside and allow millions of others to suffer because one single issue isn't 100% your way. Yada yada yada. I guess that doesn't give you a pass when the deportations happen and trans teens commit suicide. I guess that doesn't matter as much. And I said, one issue, in quotes, you're talking about the extermination of an entire people, hundreds of thousands of dead, many of whom children, as if it's just another issue like tax reform. Step back, man. And like, this is genocide. And it's just said, he used the word keldrol, which is like, like oy vey kind of thing, about like me saying like, genocide is a better red line. And like, as if it's like, I'm the one who's an asshole for like, you know, it's like, get over it. Basically, it's just one genocide. Get over it. Like, you just got to swallow it for Harris. And I'm just like, no, dude, like, I'm not going to do that.
Only person swallowing is you, and you're swallowing Harris's fucking cum down.
And it's like, dude, this fucking blue anon like attitude is like what has lost you the election every goddamn time. And it's why Democrats are such fucking losers, is because of this blue anon attitude of like, you do not fucking have any self-crit. You do not have any kind of understanding of material conditions. You just, all of these things that are like very like simple Marxist principles.
They are highly privileged.
I don't know.
As a person that was born during a fucking genocide, that's gonna be my number one fucking issue. You know why? Because like my entire life is I'm here because of that. Half of my family is gone or migrated somewhere because of that. It is a big fucking issue.
Yeah, and this person is a wealthy straight white man who lives in like, you know, or suburbs or whatever.
Pure poverty. They have never felt pure jurisdiction to the point where people are literally chasing after them, wanting to murder their entire fucking population. Right? They don't understand what it means to be in a situation where like your life is at actual stake. You know what's at stake? Their fucking wallet. Their wallet's at stake, and maybe like somebody will be mean to them now because nobody's gonna cancel them on the internet if they say they're like an F word. Right? Yeah.
Well, and like I also wrapped it up by kind of like trying to like extend this olive branch of like, I understand their point. There is like I understand where they're coming from in theory. There is a reality that black and brown people and queer people are going to have a worse time under Trump than under Harris. That is not true. But that is just basically like this myth of harm reduction that they go for every time, where it's harm reduction, it's the lesser of two evils. That's a myth that has just backfired time and time again. And like, if you actually cared about these trans and gay and queer folks and black and brown folks, then you would try something else. Like, there's that joke that's like, why would you throw away your vote on a third party candidate like Harris when like Jill Stein could have won? And it's like, it's like, then that's kind of how I feel about this, is like, obviously Harris was a throwaway vote. Like, you waste your vote if you vote for Harris. Why wouldn't you elect somebody who would actually be like a good candidate, like Stein or Claudia and Carino? Like, Harris was a throwaway, wasted vote, third party vote, and like that's genuinely how I feel about this election.
I just don't see the lesser two evil part.
I don't
see it, because like the genocide is the worst evil. in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
But then there's like, oh, what about like, what about all women's rights here that Trump is going to take away? Well, they already did. They already, again, what do I have to quote this over and over again? The abortion ban happened under the Biden administration.
So, yeah.
So it's like, what are you talking about? What do you want from me? At least I have values. At least I have morals. At least I put a fucking line. I'm like, this is the line, and I don't care. I am not voting. I'm not voting for that person, at least.
And again, I just have to keep fucking qualifying this by saying that, like, we don't support Trump. We hate Trump. But if you're an average person who is, like, affected by this genocide, it's not hard to see, like, the person actively committing the genocide versus the person who you think hypothetically would be worse. It's not hard to imagine that somebody would just not choose and stay home. And with 14 million less votes, it looks like people just stayed home. And like, that's completely understandable, because I don't understand this liberal point of view of like, you have to vote for the person committing the genocide to stop the person who is hypothetically might also continue it, but might not, but hypothetically might continue it. We have to reelect the person doing it to stop that other person. And like, that doesn't make any sense to me. No. And if I were a voter, I would just stay home, which I metaphorically did by voting Claudia Carina. But like, Claudia Carina wasn't on the ballot in a lot of these swing states, so people just stayed home, and that data is very obvious because Harris lost every single swing state. So exactly. It's just like, look in the mirror, do a little self-reflection. Democrats don't really do that, but as Marxists, that's a big part of our doctrine, is self-crit, self-analysis, understanding conditions, fitting our conditions and analysis to our conditions, and like
dialectical materialism.
That's literally just dialectical materialism. And like, Democrats do not have any such theory or any such practice baked into their ideology.
That's because
if they did, they would win a lot more. Yeah,
they're so selfish. Like, all of these things that they want are all about them, right? I didn't vote for Harris because I saw other people being fucking slaughtered, right? I voted for them. I voted for them in their eyes.
And I would end, if we're ready to wrap this discussion up, because I feel like we've kind of been talking in circles. We've been beating a dead horse here. I would just end with the point that,
keep
like,
beating the dead horse.
If you think, well, it's worth being beaten. If you think that there is a juxtaposition or an oxymoron, or if you think it's like a paradox to say that we don't support Trump, but we didn't want Harris to win. Like, if everything we've said doesn't make enough sense to you, then you haven't read enough Lenin and you don't understand dialectical materialism. Like, then that's kind of what it comes down to, is like, both things can be true. And if you think they can't, you're just living in too much of a binary world, and you're just too ingrained in Republican, Democrat as like two options. There's a lot more to life, and there's a lot more to like your brain cells. And I would encourage you to read a couple of books. We're happy to recommend them. But like, it is possible for both things to be true. And correct. We live in that space whereas we're unhappy with Trump, but we didn't vote for Harris. And that's okay. And that can happen. And like, read Lenin, I guess, is just always, and the answer to everything is just read more Lenin.
And also, I just want to point out, is like, if we want to continue living in this liberal democracy, if you want to live in a liberal democratic democracy, whatever you want to, constitute of as voting, I would say look at other countries that have 10 plus parties. Mm-hmm. It's like, if we're going to find a middle position, I don't want to pick between these two people that don't represent my ideals at all. It's like, if we're going to do this, let's do it with multiple parties. Quit shunning down third parties. Let us be on the debate stage. Yeah. Right. If you want us to be in favor of like some sort of liberal democracy, at least allow us that. If you're not going to allow us that, I am not going to take anything you say seriously.
I'm not going to be a part of this process if that's not, if you know what I mean. Like, if it's just between, if it's between the next Trump and the next Harris, which is going to be what, JD Vance and I don't know, whoever runs next, AOC, whatever. Like, I'm not going to be a part of that. Like, and neither will these people, and this will continue to happen, and you will continue to lose. So like, I don't know, the Democrats just have to learn something from this. And we say this every election. We said this in 2016, and they're just not going to. And that's the reality, is because it's their ideology does not permit them to learn anything. And that's the irony of Western democracy and liberal democracy is you are destined to lose, and meanwhile, and you're forbidden to learn from your defeat. And that's just how capitalism and Western democracy is set up. And like, it's going to keep happening. The cycle will keep happening until it until there's a violent revolution. And I fucking cannot wait for that day. We need a Lenin. We need a Bolshevik party to do what they did. We need a Che and a Fidel. We need a Ho Chi Minh. We need we need a Mao.
To get to that point, we need a whole fucking movement, man.
Yeah, we need a modern leader of any one of these guys' caliber to like lead this movement to stop this cycle, because it's just going to keep spinning the drain.
To get to that point, we need an actual like unifying party.
Well, yeah, then there's a lot of steps before that. Sure, there's
and I think the first step is to have some sort of liberal democracy, to have a party
have multiple parties. Yeah, have an actual coalition being built, like we're starting to see in England and France. And it's early days, and that's not to say that the leftist coalitions in those countries are ideal and like are this like this perfect Bolshevik party that we would like to see, but it's a start. That's how it starts, and then those coalitions grow, and those coalitions, because they're obviously better ideas and they're like they are the right way of thinking, they're going to draw more people, and then as they draw more people, they'll grow, and then it's a
because we can't like I would love just say fucking
just
tomorrow
jump straight to that.
I would love tomorrow. Lenin comes out with a fucking gun, and he hands me one, and they're like, all right, let's go.
We storm the Capitol. Right?
Yeah. Okay, but
I'd be down. But we're a couple decades or whatever away from that, or at least.
But realistically, it's like you have to have a movement behind it.
Yeah.
For people to have recognition of it. To do that, the only way to do that in today's fucking age is to have some sort of political party.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and to be fair, that's how it was then too. Yeah, I mean, like whatever. I forget what the People's Liberation, the party, that Mao was a part of, the party that like the Bolshevik was a party. I forget what the Viet Cong, what their actual the North Vietnamese Army's like political party was, but like all of these were like they were political parties, and they were minor in some cases and they were major in others, but they were all political parties, at least to my knowledge. Except the only exception to that might have been the Cubans.
Tito as well.
Tito, yeah, I mean there's a bunch of
that was during
Europeans,
World War II. Yeah.
All right, well, go join a mutual aid group. Protect your trans neighbors. Protect your immigrant neighbors. Protect your people of color neighbors. They're going to need it, and look out for one another and read some Lenin.
I do have to say, I lied. He was the head of the Communist Party in the 30s before World War II. Yeah, before World War II. Anyways, yes, please. Go help your fellow citizens in these times of dire need. Join
a political party. Join a local mutual aid group. Go just find search hashtag Free Palestine on Instagram. If you don't know where to start, if you don't know how to get involved in some direct action campaigns, if you don't know where the next protest is, search hashtag Free Palestine on Instagram or Twitter. Follow the group that posted that protest thing, and then follow them for updates. Wherever you are, there is a group somewhere, some mutual aid, some direct action group that's organizing these protests. Yeah. Join their Telegram channel, join their Signal channel, and just get involved. They need help. They need water. They need protection. And I was gonna tell this liberal in this place. He lives in the East Coast, but it's a pretty.
It's pointing to me. I'm like,
no, I was the conversation earlier. The liberal that's in my DMs. I was gonna tell him like you if you feel so fucking strongly about your trans neighbors and your people of color neighbors. Go buy an AR-15 and join the John Brown Gun Club and go fucking escort people to and from Planned Parenthood if you're so worried about it. Like, put your money where your mouth is and do something about it.
Exactly.
So, like, if you live in Arizona and you're a liberal in Arizona and you're worried about your brown neighbors, go buy a few AR-15s. Buy your neighbors some AR-15s. And go join a couple gun clubs. There are the Socialist Rifle Association, the John Brown Gun Club. There's a bunch of I forget the name of them, but there are some Hispanic led gun clubs in the South and in the Southwest, and like they run security for BLM protests. They run security for Free Palestine protests. They run security for people going to and from Planned Parenthood, because in Arizona there's protesters out front of Planned Parenthood throwing eggs at them and shit. And if you're a lot less likely to get hit by an egg as you walk into a Planned Parenthood if a dude in a tack vest and carrying an AR-15 is escorting you. So like, fucking step up or shut the fuck up. Like, if you actually have a problem with it, then do something about it. And I'm just tired of that liberal thing of like whining about something and then from your keyboard at home while you work from home making $200,000 a year. If you actually have a problem with it, go buy some guns and defend your neighbors. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Seriously.
It's that simple,
dude.
Get
over yourself.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm over liberals, dude. Like, you have no one to blame but yourself. And your words are meaningless because you're just it's just words. Like, you don't actually care about brown people. You don't actually care about trans kids. It's just lip service. If you actually cared about it, you would do something about it instead of voting every 4 years.
Here and now, quote me later, liberals are going to be absolutely useless and just forgotten within 8 to 12 years. Things are about to get more radical. You guys are just a waste of space. You're a waste of your ideology, meaning not you physically, but I mean that's. Anyways, yeah, your thought process is a waste of space.
Yeah,
so
you are a waste of space.
Get out of the way. There are going to be bigger things happening soon enough.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be more radical things going on soon enough from the government with Donald Trump now.
Yeah.
Well,
we're back. We're back again every week. Hopefully, there won't be any more interruptions. My grad school has been kicking my ass.
It's all good,
yeah.
man. We're all human.
Yeah, I think I got a handle on it. One of my classes is kind of leveled off. I have a pretty good handle on my other class, and my other class is back to like Sunday assignments. So like I'm kind of okay with. I'm now a little more flexible on Thursdays and Fridays. Follow us on our socials. Revolutionary Rhetoric, wherever you get your Instagram podcast, wherever you get your Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you're listening to this on YouTube or watching this on YouTube, go ahead and follow us on your podcast app of choice. Leave a review and a rating there, whatever you feel is appropriate. If you're listening to this on podcast, give us a subscription, a like, a share, a follow on YouTube. Leave us a comment there. Click the little bell icon. Get notified when Kanan releases some dope new videos.
And also join our Discord.
Discord, yeah. This Discord link for the Discord will be below too. Come hang out. We're not in it too much. We're still kind of growing that. There's not a ton of people, but we respond in there because there's like 5 people. So if you say something, we'll see it and just respond.
Oh yeah, we'll see it. Don't worry. I check it daily.
Yeah, and we do have a Patreon, I think. Do we still have a Patreon?
We still have a Patreon.
We're not really pushing it too hard.
No, right now I'm leaving everything pretty much open.
Yeah, free.
Once we get into bigger things, or once we make something a lot bigger.
Yeah, it seems unfair to like have a paywall Patreon if we're not uploading regularly. So
yeah,
if you want to follow our free Patreon, go for it.
Yeah, and so eventually we will have things to pay for.
Yeah,
but that's as we grow, and I just don't think we need to charge anybody anything right now.
And as always, we're a member of the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network that's continuing to grow. They're continuing to add more and more content creators on there, more podcasts, more artists, more writers. So please go ahead and go check out their description, or in our description, go check out the link for the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network. Give some of those people a follow. Green and Red Podcast was on when I couldn't make it, and that was I loved listening back to that. They're great.
By the way, Dystopian Grift and 805, let's try to get them on next week.
Yeah. Oh, right, yeah. So that was possible for next week, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 805 Uncensored Podcast, Dystopian Grift, Green and Red. There's a ton of cool
The Daily
cool
Pinecone is now.
Yeah, the Daily Pinecone is the new satirical. Yeah, so definitely give the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network guys a shout and show them some love.
I love their new post. That actually got me.
I don't know if I've seen it. Well, I think that's it from us, guys. It's glad to be back. I'm sorry that one went a little long. We're at 1:20, and I kind of ranted near the end there, but that's okay.
U.S. elects Trump again. Nation satirists retire early, admitting they can't write anything more idiotic.
I did say that. I did see that. That was pretty great.
I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. That's right. Pretty cool.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. And hopefully by then, the entire fucking world is a collapse. So.
Harris... Oh, that was 3 days ago. I just got an NPR update about Harris winning the 1 congressional district in Nebraska. Because as Nebraska has that split electoral, and like it's just congratulations. But the post was, I don't know why that's on the top of my feed, because the post is from 3 days ago, but that's just very funny.
Congrats, libtards.
Congrats, you made it. All right, have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next time.